Hello, welcome to another weekly video. Today I'm going to be talking about narcissists, or what the church refers to as Jezebels. Um, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of history about like Jezebels or narcissists. Really more so Jezebels, because there's a lot of videos that actually talk about the history of Jezebel. So if you have any questions about that, you can probably find something else about it. Um, when I was looking for information about the Jezebel spirit specifically, that's about all I really could find was history about it. So I'm gonna let you go ahead and look up that information for yourself. I'm gonna start with kind of how they operate. Like a big one you'll you'll hear about is Jezebel in the church. But the world, I think, has kind of put this term narcissist on it, and I'm still kind of learning some stuff about that. They have all kinds of different subcategories of narcissists now, so I probably won't talk about that too much. um I think they have something called a covert narcissist and an overt narcissist, and I'm sure there's all different ways to kind of break stuff down, but um I mean, I think the simplest way to kind of view it in my mind is there's introverted narcissist and there's extroverted narcissist, um, which is basically outgoing or quiet and shy. You'll see two different types. Of course, when I was just looking up narcissists now, they have like 8 categories and all kinds of ways to identify it. But all I can really speak to is what I've seen in my life. I've seen mostly the extroverted type of narcissist. And again, Jezebel is the same term. It I think we tend to use Jezebel more in the church because it kind of fits the story in the Bible. If you know the history of it, we can kind of have a reference point for the behaviors that we're seeing, and Jezebel's spirit tends to do certain things within the church that you may not see exactly the same outside the church, if that makes sense. Jezebel operates differently in a business versus like a home, for example. So that's kind of how I view it. When it comes to church and business, I kind of look at them more as Jezebel. And then at home, it's kind of more of a narcissist type situation. But again, technically they're the same thing. So I'm probably just gonna stick with one term and use it throughout this video. So so I had two specific types of Jezebels I dealt with growing up. My mother was a Jezebel, and my sister was a Jezebel, and um, according to some of the stuff that I've looked at, it's they were both more like extroverted Jezebels, and their behaviors were very destructive. They had a way of making me feel like I just wasn't really a person, I guess. Although I know there's a lot more details to that. I also want to say that, like, after living with those people for so long, I had a lot of the same traits. I tend to think of myself as a introverted Jezebel, sorry, introverted narcissist, but more aware of of the problems that I have, which I mean is possible. It's very rare. Um, I've seen some people on YouTube talk about how they're self-aware narcissists. That's kind of what I would consider myself. Um, Although I've done a lot of work on myself to try to get those behaviors to get better. Um, but to try to break down some of the narcissist type behaviors, to me, you can really break it down into into like traumas. I know there's some debate on this. I'm in these groups with people who have parents for narcissists, and they'll talk about how their their parents were never traumatized in any way. But again, sometimes a narcissist will tell you that they had a good childhood, so I don't really know if if that's something that's really believable or not. To me, I feel like no matter, excuse me, sorry, I'm got like a chest cold, but um so my voice is a little dry. But you'll find that narcissists will talk about how they had a good childhood. But for me, I've noticed that like it doesn't matter what the narcissist says. There's just no way they could have a good childhood because um there's just so many traumas that have to happen, in my opinion, to even be excuse me, a narcissist or a Jezebel. Um so I think I remember like one time watching a movie about Ted Bundy, and if you don't know who that is, it was a serial killer in like the 70s or something like that that was basically killing every woman he met, and it took him a while to to catch him, but he sat down and did an interview and said he had a good childhood, and I was just like, there's no way that's possible, and a lot of people actually believed him when he said it, so uh, people couldn't understand how you could have a good childhood and end up a serial killer. But I've seen enough to know that like narcissists will tell you that they had a good childhood. That just can't be true. Um, and I'm going by my own experience. I happen to know I had a bad childhood, but I've just I know it's kind of hard to explain, but I've seen how these narcissists will think that like everything that they went through was love when actually it was hate. So so they'll fully embrace that they had a good childhood when in fact it wasn't. So to break down some of the traumas that narcissists have gone through, um, it would be things like PTSD, more specifically CPTSD, which is now I think kind of referred to with childhood trauma. It's called complex PTSD. So that will be specifically to childhood events, parents abusing, things like that. Bipolar, I usually see that almost every time involved, at least with a woman, sometimes men too. I think that's why more and more people are trying to open up to like a Jezebel spirit previously has been more known to be a woman spirit, but it's coming out now more and more that it's with men too. So um you'll see it with men sometimes too. So that's why I say like the same kind of factors are always there to me. Like I said, bipolar, PTSD, um I guess if you want to say borderline personality, people will talk about that one too. Um, I guess those are the big ones that I typically see. A lot of times you'll see drugs involved, sometimes not, but the person will have a lot of issues that like you won't really see with other people. Um, like if I talk about some of the stuff that Jezebel does in the church, they'll be trying to get in a position of authority right away. And again, like there's a good way and a bad way to do all of this. Me and my husband were trying to find a new church, and we were talking about how we wanted to be on the staff kind of right away, but and there's nothing wrong with wanting to be on the staff or wanting to be in a position of authority. A lot of people don't necessarily well, you'll run into um, kind of this inverted type of mentality. Like, if you don't want authority, that's the person that should be in authority, or vice versa. But But you will find situations where people want to be a part of something. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's kind of the way that they go about it. And this again is more talking about Jezebel's and the operation in the church. You'll see them do things that are inappropriate. I know it's not always like this. It's actually sometimes more manipulative than this, but you know, sleeping with somebody to get to a position, things like that. You'll see a lot of Jezebel's trying to create division. The last church I went to was a good example of some of the Jezebels I ran into. The One of the church members had gained a lot of power. It was kind of like it was kind of a family set up in the church. The family was kind of fully in power in all the staff positions of the church. So so like some of them were members too, but they had gained staff positions through family, and you could kind of tell that like that was the only reason they were in the position. For example, there was like a brother was in charge of the church, and his sister was a member, but she was also they had also given her power to clean the church and to make food at events. But what's common with like Jezebel's is you'll see they're in a position that they shouldn't be in, simply because, for example, like their family, and the person that was in power was desperate to get somebody to do the work that they needed. Um, but like, so that's a good example of how they'll get in a position, but um, you'll commonly see how like they can't really do the work that they're being asked to do. Um, like for example, this member cleans the church, but like right after she cleans it, it feels like there's a lot of things that weren't actually even cleaned. It typically they're in so much fear that they're not even doing their job the way that I say a normal person, the way that it should be done. You know, like if there's certain things that need to be cleaned, the Jezebel thinks that all these other things need to be cleaned, so they don't do their job effectively. Um, but they stay in power because people are too afraid to tell them to leave their position. So that's kind of how it will look in a church, and I don't know if it's because I have so many Jezebel behaviors myself, but I feel like I've ran into so many narcissists and Jezebels. It's just like a constant thing, and you kind of just accept that that's part of life, you know. And I think other people run into them too, but they don't have to deal with them in the same way. And what's odd about it is like I know these people that I've run into are most of them are Jezebels themselves, so they don't take the time to get to know any other person that's a Jezebel. Like a Jezebel can't stand another Jezebel. It's kind of like that. I remember I met this I met this pastor who seemed like a Jezebel, and he he was very interested in getting me and my husband to be um on his team, like a leadership team or something like that, and get us involved in I guess being what felt like a friendship with him, coming over to his house and things like that. But when I saw him interact with other Jezebels at the church, it was it was a whole different dynamic. It was just um, they never seemed to get any closer. Like um, he wasn't inviting anybody else into his leadership circle. It was just us, and we tend to be a little bit more quiet. So I think the Jezebels tend to hold on to us, again, like I want to stress that like this is a common occurrence in churches. It's not really um is you can't you could I don't think you can go to a church and not see a Jezebel. It's just going to be there. Um, you just have to learn how to stand against them and learn how to say no, I think is the biggest one. And if the leadership is a Jezebel and they have Jezebels in power, you just have to walk away sometimes. But one thing I never knew is how common it was. So um, I just want to stress that like there are a high amount of people like this, and you are going to run into them. So um, I think that's kind of all I wanted to touch on with that today. Um, there is a lot more to say about it, but I don't want to go on too long. So I will leave it there, and I thank you for watching.